Tales from the Mythos.
The Nameless Hours, Chapter 1. The Beginning, Again. Albert Albright had spent years chasing mysteries, but none had felt quite so personal. It started with a letter. The envelope arrived at their safe house in Arkham, sealed with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of brittle parchment, covered in a sprawling, almost mechanical handwriting. Mr. Albright, I require your presence in Black Hollow. I have information about your missing time. There was no signature, only an address, Black Hollow, Massachusetts. Albert's blood ran cold. He had never spoken of it, not to Sister Beth, not to Rasputin, but he had lost time. Dreams of waking in strange places, moments slipping like sand through his fingers. It had haunted him for years. He knew that accepting the invitation was a bad idea, but he also knew he couldn't ignore it. Black Hollow was the kind of town that shouldn't exist. The roads leading there twisted in ways the map didn't reflect. The trees pressed too close, their roots gnarled like grasping hands. And when they arrived, the townsfolk barely acknowledged them, their expressions vacant, their movements too synchronized. At the center of town stood the old Peasley estate, a rotting Victorian house that seemed to watch them. It was the address from the letter. Chapter 2. Peasley. The man who greeted them at the door was tall and gaunt, his skin stretched too tight over his skull. His voice had the clinical precision of a scientist dictating notes. My name is Dr. Nathaniel Peasley. You are precisely on time. Sister Beth rested a hand on the handle of her old flintlock pistol. On time for what? Peasley gestured them inside. I assume you wish to know the truth about your stolen years. The house was filled with books that shouldn't exist. They covered every surface, written in languages that predated humanity, bound in materials Albert didn't want to identify. Peasley led them to his study, where a massive machine, all brass gears and humming coils, stood against the far wall. The mind is not bound to the body, Peasley explained, his fingers trailing over the dials. There is a race older than time itself who perfected the science of mental transference. Albert's pulse quickened. He knew this legend. The great race of Yith, he murmured. This wasn't his first encounter with them. The last was a nightmare, full of deep sorrow and shame. Peasley smiled, thin and knowing. They steal minds, Albright, trade places with them across centuries. Your mind has not always been your own. Albert felt a wave of nausea. He'd had dreams of other lifetimes, other bodies, standing beneath an alien sky, surrounded by towering cone-shaped beings with clawed appendages and pulsating eyes. Not dreams, memories. I can help you remember, Peasley said. Albert hesitated. Sister Beth's fingers curled around the handle of her knife. This feels like a trap, Rasputin grunted. Or a con. Peasley shook his head. The Yithians are scientists, observers. But there is something far worse hunting you. Chapter 3. The Crawling Chaos. The room dimmed, as if the walls had absorbed the light. Peasley's voice was barely a whisper. You are being watched by the Crawling Chaos. Nyarlathotep. A sharp knock echoed through the house. Not at the door, from inside the walls. Sister Beth drew a pistol. Rasputin cracked his knuckles, flames flickering to life in his palms. Albert turned to Peasley. What did you do? The knocking grew louder. Then something started laughing. The walls peeled open like wet paper. Albert saw impossible spaces beyond them, a city not made for human eyes, filled with colossal beings of chitin and tendrils, vast archives stretching into infinity, the Yithians. Then he saw the other figure, a tall, grinning man in a black suit, his eyes nothing but hungry voids. Nyarlathotep stepped into the room. "You're always fun to watch, Albert." His voice was silk and razors. "Every version of you, stumbling toward the same doom." Peasley screamed. His body collapsed inward, crumpling like a marionette with its strings cut. His shadow kept moving. Nyarlathotep chuckled. He wasn't very important anyway. The walls shuddered. The Yithians were pulling Albert back. He felt the memories unraveling. All his lives, all his stolen years. They wanted him to return. But Nyarlathotep was not finished playing. "This is where you choose," the crawling chaos whispered. "Go back to your stolen life, or stay here with me, where I can show you everything." Sister Beth grabbed Albert's arm. "We need to go. Now." Rasputin raised a hand, fire flaring to life in his palm, his eyes blazing like embers. "Not before I burn this thing back to hell." Albert felt himself splitting, his mind pulled between past and present, sanity and oblivion. He had to make a choice. Albert grabbed the machine's controls and did the only thing that made sense. He overloaded it. Lightning cracked through the room. The walls imploded, the impossible city collapsing in on itself. Nyarlathotep laughed, delighted. The world vanished. Chapter 4. Aftermath. Again. Albert awoke in the driver's seat of the Model A. Sister Beth and Rasputin were in the car, unharmed. The road stretched ahead. The trees were normal. The air was still. Black Hollow was gone. Sister Beth looked over at him. "Did we win?" Albert gripped the wheel. He didn't answer, because he wasn't sure. That night, Albert sat awake in his Arkham apartment, staring at the ceiling. He felt off, like he wasn't fully in his own body. He reached into his coat pocket and found something he didn't remember taking, a scrap of parchment, written in his own hand. "You must remember, he is still watching." Albert turned toward the window. A tall, grinning man in a black suit stood beneath the streetlight, watching, just watching.
If this tale stirred something in the dark corners of your mind, don't let it end here. Like the video, leave a comment, share it with those who dream strange dreams, and subscribe so you don't miss what's still to come.